and today we're starting a series based on the Beatitudes. Now, the Beatitudes are 8 blessings shared during the Sermon on the Mount as written in the Gospel of Matthew. And each is a proverb-like declaration. It's precise and full of meaning. 4 of the blessings also appear in what's called the Sermon on the Plain in the Gospel of Luke, but Luke states them a little differently. Luke starts them by saying, "Blessed are you," instead of just "blessed are." And Matthew changed the wording, probably to make them appropriate for all listeners. And he added some more to Luke's 4. He added 4 more. Now, not only are statements like this seen in the Bible, but there's similar verses in the traditional writings of Buddhism, in the Quran, in the teachings of Baha'i, and in the Book of Mormon, where Jesus gives a sermon to a group of indigenous Americans, where the statements are very similar to what we see in Matthew. So scholars believe that they were drawn from the book of Matthew. And this really supports the idea that truth is truth, that there's only one, and that we are all part of that one, and we're all following the same teachings. The term beatitude comes from the Latin noun, which means happiness. Now, each beatitude consists of 2 phrases. First, there's a condition, and then there's a result. So in almost every case, the condition is from the context of the Old Testament. But Jesus takes that and provides a new interpretation. He said in Matthew 5:17, "Do not think I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have come not to abolish, but to fulfill." Now, Matthew believed that Jesus was the Messiah, and that Jesus was the one who had been prophesied in the Old Testament to come and fulfill it. So Jesus is teaching about how the spirit of the law could be followed. Matthew believed, again, that Jesus came to fulfill the Old Testament prophecies, and Matthew reflects that in all of his writings. Now, Jesus is teaching how the law should be followed. The law was laid out in the Old Testament. Jesus in the New Testament teaches us how to do that. So, and this is an example of how he takes teachings from the Hebrew Bible and transforms them into updated interpretations for us, so that we can use them, that we can follow them. He puts them into modern language for that time, and he teaches us how to put these ideas into practice. This is the part of the transformation of the mind, transforming old ways of thinking to new. So the Beatitudes present as a set of Christ-like ideals that focus on a spirit of love and humility. Whereas the Old Testament demands people, Jesus presents this lovingly, gently. These resonate to the highest ideals of the teachings of Jesus on mercy, compassion, love, spirituality. These were and are the basic teachings of Jesus. Now, it's important to recognize that Matthew set up the scene with Jesus going up into the mountains. It's a Sermon on the Mount. And this is about Jesus lifting his thoughts to a higher, more spiritual realm. Metaphysically, we go to higher perceptives and perceptions of thought when we see the mountains mentioned. So we see just Jesus going up towards the heaven. We also see this when the Bible depicts Jesus looking up into the heavens. It's all about raising our consciousness, raising our thoughts. Now, we also see this in the Hebrew Bible, where Moses goes up the mountain to get the 10 Commandments. Again, it's the raising of consciousness. So the Old Testament or Hebrew Bible teaches us the law, and we're now ready to put the spirit of those laws into practice. And this is what Jesus is teaching us. This is a message of humility, charity, and brotherly love. He teaches transformation of the inner person. Jesus presents the Beatitudes in a very positive sense. He presents them as virtues in life that will ultimately lead us to a reward. Love becomes the motivation for his followers. So all of the Beatitudes offer a promise of salvation, not in this world, but in the next. The Beatitudes introduce one of the main themes of the Gospel of Matthew, that the kingdom that is so long awaited for in the Old Testament is not in this world. You see, the Israelites were waiting, the Hebrews were waiting for the Messiah to bring them the kingdom here on earth. Now they're being taught that the kingdom is of heaven, not in the world. But the confusion is that Jesus also proclaimed that the kingdom of God was at hand. So how can that be? How could the kingdom not be of the world yet be at hand? Because what Jesus is teaching us is that the kingdom is within us. It's not in the world. It's not in the physical form. It's at hand because it is us. We are the kingdom. Now, the translation of the Greek word for blessed means spiritual well-being and prosperity. So it's kind of synchronistic that our daily word today was prosperity. So again, the Greek translation for the word blessed is spiritual well-being or prosperity. So when we bless someone or something, we're asking it that they or it be increased, be prospered, be one with all. Now, some have a tendency to translate the word as happy, but that doesn't capture all that it's intended in the writings, primarily because the modern usage of the word happy devalues it. The term blessed is an explanation of inner joy, of peace that comes with being aligned with the divine, being aligned with our divine self, with our spirit self, with our Christ self. Happiness may be a part of it, but it's a happiness that transcends what happens in the world around us, a happiness that comes to the soul from knowing that there's no separation. In the world, happiness is fleeting, but joy, like love, is unchangeable. It's constant. That's why Scripture can call for rejoicing under intense persecution. In some ways, Jesus' declaration of blessed is a pledge of divine reward for that inner spiritual character, the spiritual attitude and state of mind of people who are right with the divine, who know who they are. Now, as I said earlier, the Beatitudes consist of two parts, the condition and the result. Those who experience the first aspect in each of the Beatitudes, which is poor, mourn, meek, hungry, merciful, will also experience the second part of the Beatitude, which is kingdom of heaven, comfort, inherit the earth, filled, mercy, sons of God, inherit the kingdom of heaven. So the Beatitudes are for those on a spiritual quest. The person that Jesus describes in this passage has a different quality of character and lifestyle that are still in those that are outside the kingdom. You know, these are the ones that are opening up and following that thirst for spiritual knowledge. And Jesus is describing those who have journeyed and are remembering who and what they are. This is an inner journey, a spiritual journey. Now, again, we have to remember at what time these were written. These were written for people who had been enslaved. So let's look at each beatitude and keep in mind once again who Jesus is teaching this to. He's teaching it to the Hebrews who are deep in their traditions of the Old Testament, deep in their domestication. Remember, Jesus was a revolutionary, and this is very radical thinking and teaching for those times. So let's look at the first two. The first one is, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Now, Jesus spoke Aramaic, and as we know, in Aramaic, the meaning of a word is based on its placement within the statement. So there can be several translations for this beatitude. Now, in his book, Prayers of the Cosmos, the author has several interpretations or several translations, and they become, blessed are the humble, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So poor in spirit can be seen as humble. Another translation is, delighted are those who surrender to God, because God's heaven's reign belongs to them. So we're looking at humble, we're looking at surrender. That's surrendering and letting go of our ego self so that we can reach that higher perspective. We can reach that higher consciousness. Again, we have to remember that the Israelites were under Roman rule for over 500 years. Rome was a very prideful nation, believing that their country, their God, and their people were better than anyone else. And their pride even went so far as to think it out below themselves to do any other type of work that was outside of their caste. They would rather starve than do domestic work. It's this pride that Jesus is referring to in this lesson. This is the pride of the Pharisees and the Sadducees and their self-righteousness. Now, poor in spirit in the traditional Aramaic idiom means humble. And that's according to Dr. George Lamsa. Dr. Lamsa was an Assyrian author and a native Aramaic speaker. He translated the Aramaic Old and New Testaments into English. And on a side note, he was in residence at Unity Village for some time. So in this verse, spirit is referring to those who are humble. So blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who are humble, who are unassuming, who are free from racial prejudice. It means we have emptied ourselves of all the desire to exercise personal self-will and preconceived ideas in search of truth. It means we are willing to set aside our personal and present habits of thought, our views, our prejudices, our present way of life, to let go of all of that so that we can follow the way of spirit, so that we can connect and we can be the Christ that we are. To have poverty of spirit means to be completely empty and open to the word of God. It's letting go of everything. When we are an empty cup, devoid of pride, we are humble. Humility brings an openness and an inner peace, allowing that person to experience their connection to spirit. Now, author, monk, and mystic Thomas Merton said, at the center point of our being is a point of nothingness, which is untouched by sin and illusion, a point of pure truth, a point of spark which belongs entirely to God. This is the space that Jesus is speaking of by poor in spirit, by humble. In this beatitude, Jesus is praising the people for their character and the rewards for that. He acknowledges that there is nothing that they need to do or have in order to enter the kingdom of heaven. It's about who they are, how they operate, their character, their ability to love. He's teaching that God does not judge if one is rich or poor on the material plane. It's the richness of the heart that counts. Jesus did not make them rich in earthly possessions and power, but he fulfilled their greatest need, their spiritual need. So we can truly see that Jesus taught, blessed are the poor or the humble in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And delighted are those who surrender to God, because heaven's reign belongs to them. Truly, when we let go of everything and go within and feel the presence, feel that divine presence, that which we are truly blessed. And now the second beatitude is, blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. And the Aramaic translation is, blessed are those in emotional turmoil. They shall be united inside by love. I'm just blown away by that translation. It really is so profound. Blessed are those in emotional turmoil, for they shall be united inside by love. Now remember, at this time, there were many uprisings in that area of the world. The Israelites were often fighting against their Roman oppressors. When the people came to Jesus and complained about this, he taught them about the new kingdom, the kingdom within. Mourning indicates the pain and the grief and the anxieties of the soul over some loss, over some death of a loved one. But it could also be over the loss of a valued life, such as those Israelites who went into exile. Or it could be the loss of possessions or status or health. People mourn over so many disasters in their lives. And in times of mourning, people are looking for hope. And often in the physical world, they see very little hope. Now, when we mourn, we're in a state of vulnerability. Our heart is hurting, and that hurting is reaching out towards something that they have seemed to have lost. But even in that midst of mourning, they're still loving. Love is there, but it's mistaken for grief. Mourning is a state of living between the realm of I have it or I don't. To mourn is to touch directly the substance of divine compassion. Like ice melting, there's a rigid part of us that needs to melt before it can flow. When we're mourning, we're holding on to grief. And there's nothing we can do but allow it to take its course, like the ice melting. Again, that rigid part of us needs to melt before it can flow, before it can reach new places, before we can open up and allow ourselves to be flooded with the love that is within us. We need to melt down so we can connect to our expanded consciousness. Tears have a way of doing this. It's proven scientifically that each tear contains pain relief chemicals. So has anyone ever said, I need a good cry? That's because it's a release. Now, another one of the Aramaic translations of this beatitude is, healthy are those who have softened what is rigid within. They shall receive physical vigor and strength from the universe. So we soften that rigidity within us. And when we do that, we open up to receive all that the universe has for us. Now, authors Eckhart Tolle and Ken Wilber speak directly to this. Eckhart Tolle says, life is a series of losses. loss of a job, relationship, income, friends, dreams, youth. For everything that becomes, something else dissolves. So we need to take time to mourn, take time and allow the process. Grief has its own time frame. So we let go and allow the grief to be, to feel it, to move through it. The author Ken Wilber, in his book Grace and Grit, says that mourning is a brutal form of emptiness. Mourning is a process of emptying, and through this emptiness, new potential occurs. Through the pain and emptying, something reaches back to us. And what is reaching back to us is that pure love that we are. This is the meltdown that we spoke about before. We need to let go, surrender, feel our pain, empty. And we see the universe that is always there to support us and help us recover. This is moving to the letting go and moving to the truth, the core of who we are, that essence, that Christ. New Thought author Emmett Fox said, "We have to face troubles, woes, illness, etc. So we will hit bottom and then finally turn to God and recognize our true source." That hitting bottom is reaching the emptiness so we can reach the love that is always within us. So blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are those in emotional turmoil. They shall be united inside by love. And healthy are those who have softened that rigid within. They shall receive physical vigor and strength from the universe. We all have experienced emotional turmoil at one time or another. And I'm sure that what's going on in the world right now is causing that. But we need to remember that we're united inside by love. Love is the only thing that exists. And when we see this insanity that's going on out there, we don't have to be absorbed by it. We have the choice to let go, move within, and know that we are all united inside by love. So now I invite you to close your eyes, get comfortable in your seat. If there's anything on your lap, remove it, put your feet flat on the floor, and just breathe as we move into our meditation. With each breath we take, we become more and more relaxed. We feel this in our body as each of our muscles let go. We allow our thoughts to calm and allow ourselves to just focus on our heart, the center of our being, that love which we are. Yes, we all experience emotional turmoil. It's part of the human experience. It's part of the ego thought system. But with each turmoil, we know that there's an always available essence of love accessible to us at all times. That love comes from within. That love is our natural state. That love is who we are. As divine expressions of God, we are here to remember who we are. We are here to be that expression, to help others remember who they are. And we do that by exuding our innate presence, our innate love. Part of that is to extend that love to others, but most of all, realize it for ourselves. Because when we realize and we know who we truly are, we cannot act in any other manner but being that which we are, which is love. When we truly know that there is only one, we live from that. We live that expression. We live those characteristics of kindness, compassion, love. And we experience a joy that is beyond our imagination. That is our true self. That is who we are. So right now, in this moment, I invite you to bring to mind anything that is preventing you from experiencing and knowing that truth of who you are. Anything that is getting in the way of your pure expression of God. So I invite you to bring that to mind. And as you move deeper and deeper in the silence, you bring it to spirit and just listen. And now we bring to mind all those who are in need in prayer, those on our unity prayer list, those on silent unity. We offer this prayer for all those who suffer on any level. We affirm that there's a power and a presence within them that will see them through anything they're experiencing. We know that these conditions are temporary, but there is a part of us that is eternal. And that is the power that we call upon to comfort those who are in turmoil now. We also expand this and pray for all our world leaders that they may have a raising of consciousness and realize that there is only one, and what they do to others, they do to themselves. So now I invite you to bring your consciousness back into the room where you are, back into your body. Feel yourself coming into full consciousness. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And now this is the time in our service where we have the opportunity to give. So I'd like you to visualize your method of giving in your hands. Visualize the meaning of what this is that you give. This is your love that you are extending in the form that will keep unity moving along its path, that will keep us following what we are guided to do. This is your offering to keep unity stable, to allow us to continue meeting all our financial responsibilities and affirming that God is our source and our supply. So I invite you to bless these gifts with me. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I choose to give and all that I'm open to receive, and I am grateful.